That breaking news, Boeing Wichita making changes to its safety protocols after the death of a worker who fell while on the job. This came into our newsroom just within the last half hour. Dylan Domingue joins us live from the newsroom with a look at what's changing. Dylan?
Yeah, Brock, 53-year-old Daniel Lucier died in April, days after falling through an opening in a temporary walkway at the Boeing plant here in Wichita. Today, Boeing confirming a series of changes implemented in response to that incident. So Boeing sent us this statement, reading in part that the company conducted an investigation over the past several weeks and have taken immediate action to strengthen fall protection and workplace safety. Those changes include installing production floorboards across the facility and modifying certain floorboards to remain more securely in place, issuing a reminder for workers not to walk or work on floor beams, developing new fall protection plans and improving signage, and mandating managers perform pre-operation safety checks. And Boeing says it is cooperating fully with all regulatory authorities. This includes OSHA. Brock?